What if every person who ever deceived you told you the truth? Right there in the room, with their body, with their voice, with their face. And you were looking directly at them and missed every word of it. 7 signals. The ones running underneath every conversation. This is how you start reading all of them. Most men walk into a room and react to what they find. They take people at face value. They listen to the words and miss everything underneath. And then 6 months later, they are sitting there thinking, I should have seen that coming. You have been there. The business partner who seemed solid until they were not. The person who said all the right things and then did something completely different. The room where you thought you had buy-in and found out later you never did. Every single time, the signals were there. The body was communicating. The voice was telling you. The face was showing you something for a fraction of a second before God managed. You just did not know what to look for. Here is what nobody tells you. You already have the ability to read people. Your brain has been doing it since before you were born. 100 milliseconds after you see a face, your amygdala has already made a judgment. Threat or no threat, ally or adversary, trustworthy or not. That happens before your conscious mind has processed anything. The problem is not that you cannot read people. The problem is that you learn to override the signal. You extend benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself you might be wrong. You decide to give someone a chance based on what they said instead of what they communicated. Words are the smallest part of what a person communicates. Albert Mehrabian at UCLA documented this across decades of research. 55% of what people register comes from body language, 38% from vocal tone, 7% from the actual words. Most men spend 100% of their attention on the 7%. Think about what that means. You are operating on the least reliable channel available while the most reliable channels are running in front of you, and you are not reading them. The signal is there. You have just been trained to ignore it. 7 signals. Each one specific. Each one learnable. This is how you stop missing what was always there. Signal 1. The baseline. Here is the mistake most men make when they are trying to read someone. They start evaluating immediately. They see a behavior and they decide what it means. And they are wrong. Not because they are not smart, because they skipped the most important step. Before you can read what is unusual about a person, you need to know what is normal for them. That is the baseline. And without it, everything else is guesswork. Think about it this way. Some people are naturally quiet. Some people are naturally expressive. Some people touch their face constantly when they are relaxed. If you do not know what their normal looks like, you cannot see the deviation, and the deviation is where the truth lives. Paul Ekman at UC San Francisco spent 4 decades studying this. His work trained FBI agents, CIA officers, and clinical psychologists worldwide. His most important finding was not about specific expressions. It was about deviation from baseline. The expression that matters is not the one that appears. It is the one that appears when it should not, or disappears when it should be there. Here is what this looks like in a real situation. You are in a meeting with someone you have worked with for 3 months. You know how they normally sit, how they normally talk. Then you ask about a specific project and something shifts. Their posture changes. Their voice gets slightly faster. They give you a normal answer, but the shift tells you the topic activated something. You would not have seen that if you did not know what normal looked like. Or you are meeting someone for the first time, a potential partner, a new hire, someone you need to trust. Most men immediately start evaluating. First impression, Gut feeling, snap judgment. The smarter move is to spend the first 60 seconds not evaluating at all, just watching. Let them settle into their normal. Then everything that deviates from it becomes readable. Here is what that looks like in practice. You are in a first meeting with someone who wants to do business with you. For the first minute, ask easy questions. Low stakes. No pressure. How long have you been in this space? What brought you to this? Watch how they hold themselves when the answer costs them nothing. That is their baseline. Now ask about something that has stakes. The terms, the timeline, the thing that might be a problem. Watch what changes. The posture that was open now turns slightly. The voice that was easy now slows. The hands that were still now move. Those shifts are the conversation underneath the conversation. And you only see them because you built the reference point first. Here is how to do this starting tomorrow. In your next significant conversation, spend the first 30 seconds doing nothing except observing. How do they hold their body when relaxed? How fast do they speak without pressure? Where do their eyes go when comfortable? What do their hands do when there is nothing to hide? Build that reference point first. Because here is what happens when you skip this step. You judge everyone against your own normal. A quiet person reads as cold. An expressive person reads as unstable. You are not reading them. You are projecting yourself onto them. Baseline first, always. Without it, you are flying blind. Signal 2. The pacifying gesture. You have seen this 1,000 times and never known what it was. Someone gets asked a tough question. Before they answer, their hand goes to their neck, or they rub the back of their head, or they press their lips together, or they start playing with their watch. That is a pacifying gesture, and it is one of the most reliable signals available. Here is why it happens. When the nervous system comes under stress, the body needs to self-regulate, and it does this automatically without permission through specific, predictable behaviors. Joe Navarro spent 25 years as an FBI counterintelligence officer studying exactly this. His work identifies these behaviors across every culture and every background. The critical thing to understand is what these gestures mean. They do not mean the person is lying. They mean the nervous system is under load. Something in this moment is creating psychological stress. Your job is not to decide what that means. Your job is to notice that it appeared and then find out what triggered it. Ask yourself this. What just happened in the conversation right before the gesture appeared? What question was asked? What topic came up? What name was mentioned? The gesture is how the body responds to a stimulus. Find the stimulus and you find what matters. Here is a specific scenario that plays out constantly. You are in a negotiation. You ask about the timeline for delivery. The other person reaches up and touches their neck before answering. Their answer sounds completely reasonable. But the gesture told you the question activated their stress system. That means the timeline is a problem they have not told you about yet. Do not move past it. Ask one more question about it. Watch what happens, or you are interviewing someone. You ask about a gap in their resume. Before they answer, they press their lips together. They give you a smooth explanation. But the lip press told you they prepared that explanation. It did not come naturally. That does not mean they are lying. It means the topic carries weight for them. Worth exploring. Here is the dark side of the signal. The people around you are reading your pacifying gestures right now. every time you touch your face in a negotiation, every time you clear your throat before answering a hard question, every time you adjust your collar when the stakes go up. The person across from you who knows this sees exactly what activated your stress system, and they know which lever to press. Watch for the gesture. Find the trigger. That is where the real conversation is happening. Signal 3, the freeze. Every vertebrate on Earth shares this response. When danger appears, the nervous system has 3 options: fight, flight, freeze. Modern humans rarely fight or run in social situations, but they freeze constantly, and most people never notice it. Here is what the freeze looks like in a conversation. Normal interaction involves movement, nodding, small adjustments, shifting weight. When someone freezes, that natural movement stops. The body becomes very still, very quickly, for a fraction of a second. Then they recover and respond. Most people watching see only the response. The trained observer sees the freeze before it. This matters because the freeze is involuntary. Joseph Ledoux at NYU documented the neural pathway. Emotional signals from the amygdala reach the motor system before they reach the cortex. The body responds before the conscious mind catches up. You cannot train yourself out of this, which means in that gap between stimulus and response, the body is showing you something true, something that has not been filtered yet, something that has not been managed. Here is a real scenario. You're having a conversation with someone you work with closely. You mention a name, a competitor, a colleague, a client. In that first fraction of a second before they respond, something changes. The movement stops. The breath holds. The eyes go somewhere. Then they recover and say that everything is fine, but the freeze already told you that name means something. The practice that unlocks this signal is silence. Most men fill silence immediately. They ask a question and keep talking before the other person has time to respond. And they miss everything that happens in those first 2 seconds. Ask, then stop. Completely. Hold the silence like it costs you nothing. Watch what happens in the body before the mouth opens. That 2-second window is the most honest moment in any conversation, because it has not been decided yet. The freeze, the micro-expression, the shoulder movement, the breath. All of it happens in that gap. All of it is unfiltered. The men who learn to hold silence after significant questions have an enormous advantage, because everyone else is so uncomfortable with silence that they fill it themselves, and in filling it, they show you exactly what they were trying to manage. Here is the dark side of this signal that most men never consider. The freeze is being used against you deliberately in high-stakes situations. Experienced negotiators know that an unexpected pause after a significant question forces the other person to fill the silence. They ask a pointed question, then they stop completely. They wait. And most men, uncomfortable with the gap, start talking, start qualifying, start explaining things they were not asked to explain. Every word they add is a signal. Every voluntary piece of information is a tell. The man who knows the freeze is the man who can also weaponize silence. Ask the hard question, then stop. What fills the silence is almost always more useful than the answer would have been. If a conversation has ever cost you because you could not see what was running underneath it, subscribe to Dark Architect. This is exactly what we break down every week. The button is right there. Signal 4 is where most sophisticated people get caught because they are watching for the wrong thing entirely. Signal 4. Congruence. This is the signal that sophisticated people miss most often, not because it is subtle, because reading it requires holding two streams of information at once. Congruence is the alignment between what someone is saying and how their body is saying it. When these two match, the communication is genuine. When they do not, the body is telling a different story than the mouth. Here is what incongruence looks like. A person says yes while their head very slightly shakes no. It is small. Most people miss it, but it is there. A person says they are comfortable with a decision. Their feet are pointed toward the exit. Feet are one of the most honest parts of the body because no one thinks to control them. They point toward where the person actually wants to go. A person says they are confident in a plan. Their voice drops in pitch and their words slow down. Confidence has a specific vocal signature. Slowing and dropping is the signature of uncertainty. Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago has studied social cognition for decades. His finding is consistent. We are much worse at reading other people than we believe we are. The primary reason is that we listen to words and ignore the channel the words are riding on. The delivery contains more information than the content. We evaluate the content and miss the delivery entirely. The congruence check is one question. Does the way this is being said match what is being said? If yes, treat the communication as genuine. If no, something beneath the surface has not been resolved. Not necessarily deception, but something that deserves a follow-up question. The men who catch this in real time have a significant advantage. They know when the stated position and the real position are different. And they can work with the real position instead of the stated one. That changes every negotiation and every important conversation. Here is a scenario you have probably lived. You're in a discussion about a plan you have put forward. Someone across the table tells you it is a good direction. Their words are supportive, but their posture is turned slightly away. Their voice is slightly flat, and there was a half-second pause before they said it was good. 3 channels disagreeing with the one channel you were listening to. The man reading congruence does not accept the stated position. He knows there is a real position underneath, and he asks one more question to surface it. That question changes the outcome of the meeting. In 2026, this applies to every video call as much as any room you have ever sat in. The camera frame is smaller. The signals are not. Watch whether someone leans slightly toward the camera when they agree. Watch whether they straighten in their chair or pull back when a topic activates something. Watch whether the voice holds its energy or drops almost imperceptibly flat. You cannot see the feet on a video call, but you have the face, the shoulders, and the voice. 3 channels running simultaneously. If all 3 match what is being said, the communication is genuine. If any one of them breaks from the words, there is a real position underneath the stated one. And the man who catches it in real time has information that changes everything about where the conversation goes next. Signal 5. The micro-expression. This one lasts less than half a second, and it shows you the emotion before it gets managed. Here is how it works. A genuine emotion activates the face before the conscious mind can intervene. The expression appears. Then the brain catches up and replaces it with the intended expression. The micro-expression is what happens between those 2 moments. Paul Ekman identified 7 universal expressions that appear as micro-expressions across every culture. Anger, contempt, disgust, fear, happiness, sadness, surprise. In professional and social situations, contempt and disgust are the 2 that matter most. Both are typically suppressed in polite interaction. When they appear as micro-expressions, they reveal a response the person is actively hiding. Contempt is particularly significant. It signals a felt superiority. A person showing contempt, micro-expressions while verbally agreeing with you is not agreeing with you. They are tolerating you. That distinction has real consequences. Here is what this looks like in practice. You present an idea in a meeting. Everyone nods. Everyone says it sounds good, but one person, for a fraction of a second, has a very slight asymmetric pull at the corner of their mouth. That is contempt. That person is not with you. They are managing you, and you would never know if you were not watching for it. How to start developing this skill. The next significant conversation you have. Watch the face in the first fraction of a second after a question lands. Not after the answer starts. The moment the question lands. Before the person has decided what to say. That is where the micro-expression lives. You will not catch all of them at first, but you will start catching some. And one micro-expression at the right moment tells you more than 10 minutes of word. In 2026, this has an additional dimension. AI tools are now used in hiring assessments and negotiations to detect micro-expressions at scale. The person across from you in a video interview may not be trained to read this, but the software analyzing the recording might be. Your face is communicating things you do not know it is communicating. Understanding this is no longer optional for men who operate at a high level. The dark side of micro-expressions is what they reveal about you. Every contempt flicker you have shown while pretending to agree. Every disgust response you thought you hid. The person who knows what to look for has been reading you this whole time. This signal goes both ways. Signal 6. The proxemic tell. Most men have never heard the word proxemics, but they feel it every day. Proxemics is the study of how people use space as communication. Edward Hall at Northwestern University documented this in the 1960s. The distance a person keeps from you is not random. It is a real-time indicator of how they feel about you in this moment. 4 zones, 0 to 18 inches, intimate space for the people you are closest to, 18 inches to 4 feet, personal space for friends and trusted colleagues, 4 to 12 feet, social space for professional interaction, beyond 12 feet, public space for strangers. The tell is not the zone itself. The tell is when someone moves outside the zone appropriate for the relationship. A colleague who normally maintains professional distance and suddenly closes it is communicating something. A friend maintaining professional distance in a meeting when they are usually closer is communicating something different. The movement tells you something changed. Something in the relationship or in this specific moment shifted. The most reliable proxemic tells happen in real time during a conversation. The unconscious lean forward when something genuinely interests them. The barely perceptible step back when they are not comfortable with what is being asked. The body rotating so the shoulder, rather than the chest, faces you. That last one is called the body orientation tell. Full frontal orientation means engagement. Angling the shoulder means partial withdrawal. And it appears before the person is consciously aware they are withdrawing. Here is a scenario you have probably been in. You are pitching something to a group. One person in the room has been facing you squarely. 30 minutes in, their chair has rotated slightly. Their shoulder is angled away from you. They have not said anything negative. Their face looks neutral, but their body already voted. You are losing that person. And if you are watching, you can adjust before the meeting ends. If you are not watching, you find out in the follow-up email that they are not interested. In 2026, this applies to video calls as much as in person. Watch whether someone leans into the camera when engaged. Watch whether they pull back in their chair when the conversation goes somewhere uncomfortable. Watch whether they start glancing at something off-screen. The frame is smaller, the signals are not. The dark side of missing proxemic tells. You keep pushing when the room has already left. You finish the pitch thinking you have buy-in because nobody said no. But the body said it 20 minutes ago. And you did not see it. Signal 7. The voice tell. Most men trust this channel completely. They listen to the words, and they completely miss what the voice is doing underneath. Here is what you need to know. Rate of speech slows when a person is uncertain. The brain is searching for a language to cover ground it is not confident about. It slows the output while it searches. Rate of speech accelerates when someone is comfortable with the content or anxious to move past it. Context tells you which. Smooth, fast speech on a topic means expertise. Irregular, fast speech means they want this topic over. Listen for the smoothness, not just the speed. Pitch rises under stress, not always dramatically, sometimes by a fraction. But against the baseline you already established, you will hear it. The voice that was steady at a certain pitch and then goes slightly higher is telling you something activated. Pause placement is the most underrated vocal signal. Where someone pauses in a sentence reveals what their brain is prioritizing. People pause before words that carry emotional weight. Listen for this. If someone says, "We should continue the partnership," that pause before continue reveals that continue was a deliberate choice. There were other words sitting in that gap that did not get said. Those words are usually more important than what did. Here is a real example. You ask a colleague how the project is going. They say, "Yeah, it is. It is coming along. We should be fine." That double, "yeah." That pause before "it is." That is not a verbal tick. That is uncertainty arriving before the words did. The project is not fine. Carol Goman at Berkeley published research on this in early 2026. The finding confirms what practitioners have known for decades. Stress indicators in the voice activate before the person is conscious of them. By the time someone has decided to sound confident, their voice has already broadcast the uncertainty. You do not read the decision. You read what came before the decision. Now here is what makes this signal dangerous in both directions. The voice tells you things about other people, but it also tells other people things about you. Every time your voice rises slightly before a negotiation point you're not sure about. Every time your speech slows before an answer you are constructing. Every time you clear your throat before saying something you do not fully believe. The person across from you who knows this is reading you. The good news is this. Genuine alignment between what you are saying and what you believe produces no vocal stress indicators. The fix is not managing your voice. The fix is saying things you actually believe. When what you are communicating is true, the voice carries it cleanly. That is the highest level of this skill, not learning to read others. Learning to be readable as someone who means what they say. Here is what changes when all 7 are running at once. You walk into a room before anyone has said a word. You spend the first 30 seconds watching, not evaluating. You build the baseline, then you run the signals against it in real time. The pacifying gesture that appears when a specific topic comes up. The freeze that fires for a fraction of a second before the composed answer arrives. The voice that drops flat while the words stay positive. The shoulder that angles away while the face stays friendly. The micro-expression of contempt that crosses a face for less than half a second before the nod appears. You're now reading 5 conversations simultaneously, the one being said, and the 4 running underneath it. The men who operate at this level do not get surprised by people anymore, not because the world is simpler for them, because they are reading more of it. They know which objection is real and which one is theater before the other person finishes the sentence. They know when to push and when to wait because the body already told them. They know who is actually with them in the room and who is performing alignment. And they know it before anyone has committed to anything. That is a completely different level of operation, and it is available to any man who decides to pay attention to the right channels. Start with one signal this week. Baseline. Just baseline. In every significant conversation, spend the first 30 seconds watching, not evaluating. Watching. Build the reference point. Everything else depends on it. The next video is already loaded. It covers the internal architecture that makes men psychologically unbreakable, the specific structure the most resilient men have built that most men never construct. Watch it now. Subscribe to Dark Architect. Every week we break down the exact mechanics behind how power, influence, and human behavior actually operate. No motivation, no fluff. Just the mechanism. The room is always speaking. Most men never learn to listen. Now you do.